Let's talk a little bit about the game. Let's go all the way back to the picks and bans. We seen the Riven locked in after SKT had given away that Z to the Lemondogs. Crippa, you were talking about a little bit, and Monty actually mentioned that SKT were talking about the fact they've scrimmed as, playing Riven against Fnatic. But talk to me about the matchup a little bit and your thoughts.
I just think this was a bait. Nobody in this tournament at this point will get Z for free or by accident, so they actually knew perfectly what they were going to do. And as you saw, Riven was a pretty decent matchup. We couldn't really evaluate how it went in the hands of these two players due to the deficit early. Faker had to blow his summoners on Faker Playmaker, but he was face shaking the bush.
It was a pretty terrible play by Faker at level 1.
No respect again. You have to respect the brush at least if you can't see who's inside. But from a deficit, he played really well, got back into the game, had a really good roam top. Maybe we'll touch on that later. Yeah, just solid play by Faker.
I think this is the best game for him to kind of have a wake-up call where he needs, his ego or maybe not his ego, but his overconfidence can be toned down because he still won. And maybe this is the best time to have a wake-up call. Maybe I can't just be Faker all the time, no matter what.
Well, that said, we also saw how the rest of his team can carry right there. And you can see that it was really a decision for them once Faker got down. When he roamed top for that gank, when Lemondogs was pushed up to turret in top lane, they intentionally gave that kill to Impact. Faker peeled off, and they waited for Singe to pick that one up. So at that point, they knew Faker was behind, and they were focusing on buffing up their other lanes. And that was Piglet's first professional game on Corki as well. He obviously had a pretty dominating performance. So there's a lot of threats on this team.
I want to highlight something that they also did with Impact in particular, because after that level 1 start, we did the traditional sort of red buff trades that we see fairly often at this level of the game. Mandu was helping Impact steal away those double golems. He then recalled, ran back to lane. So not only was it taking that camp, Singe would have been sitting in a 1v2 lane doing nothing anyway. It was a great start and something that we don't see all too often at this level of play.
But that's a kind of play that really abuses the fact that if you're in a 2v1 lane, you're going to be freezing the minion waves. And if you know that, you can take that assumption that pro teams make and make plays elsewhere on the map at level 1, come back in time to pick up that experience.
There's basically two ways to people play a 2v1 lane. Either they push the wave on really quick, and on the second wave, they'll stack for a little bit, second wave pushing the tower, early harass on the tower. Then there's the alternative where they slowly push it, and until the point where no more creeps are dying on your side, then they push it in. That's like a stack 3 or 4 waves. Generally, they synergize that with the jungler. A lot like that, they will abuse the fact that their jungler is open. We've seen Darian do it as well in the European LCS match against us. We had no idea where he was. He did Wolves and Wraiths, and then went back to bot lane.
Yeah. I have to say, overall, it seemed like SKT was able to make their adaptations quicker. Lemondogs also made mistakes. It wasn't just Faker here making some questionable calls. Lemondogs, they went for that dive after the bottom 2v1 situation. SKT1, their duo had already recalled, so they were definitely going to make a lane rotation. And then Dexter puts himself behind the turret, cut off from his allies, and it all went downhill from there.
Honestly, from Lemondogs right there, if we think about they could have had more dragon control in the early game. They really focused on keeping control over SK Telecom's red in the top jungle, and I feel like they could have made a potentially good dragon play, but they made that decision instead, and I think that cost them in the long run.
And I think this is a great game to illustrate why SK T1 is just kind of stronger right now than Lemondogs. Lemondogs team comp, Renekton, Zed, Caitlyn, that's such an early game oriented team comp. You have to pull ahead early game and then you can snowball it from there. They actually did pull ahead early game and shut down their enemy team's star player, and they still weren't able to close it out. SKT1 still, even at a deficit, was able to win dragon fights and take objectives.
Definitely something every other team in this group and in this tournament will have to keep their eyes on. And after that game, let's actually take a look at where the teams sit after the very first match of the day. OMG are still sitting at the top of the table, undefeated at 4-0. They are one game behind SK2, are currently sitting 4-1.